going to call Lillian on stage. Lillian, my wonderful friend. Let me do a little brief intro of Lillian. So, Lillian Ogbogoh, did I pronounce that last name okay?
You did. I'm very proud of you.
Thank you. Is an international speaker, a neural change practitioner, and a feminine power architect. She helps high achieving women, especially and brown women, reclaim their voice, rewrite their internal narrative, and lead without burnout or performance.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. I'm glad to do this talk. So we're going to be talking about something that is called the science of self-return. And I'm talking about wiring ourselves for joy, pleasure, and personal power. Have you ever reached a milestone, that promotion, that long-awaited whatever it is, that yes, oh, that person said, yes, you know what? You got it. You got that contract. You got that client. And instead of that feeling of joy, you feel empty. You feel like, okay, is that it? Has anybody felt that? Because I have. I launched a book project that had people from across the world in it that made bestsellers in a couple of sections. And what happened? We missed two of our bestseller section. And I sat there and you think someone had stolen my bike. And it still felt like it wasn't enough. It wasn't good enough. It wasn't enough. It was not enough. And I realized I spent years chasing validation. I spent years thinking if I could just be more, if I could show up more. I was in relationships that I go, if I can just be a bit more for them, they will love me like I expect them to. They should do X, Y, Z. And then something happened. I realized that the more I tried to prove myself whole, the less I connected, the less I felt whole. The more I chased other people's validation, the less I felt like I was enough. So I don't know if any of you have had that, because what happened is we entered the space where the disconnection that we cannot speak, because most of us actually don't have the language for it. Because on paper, we look successful. On paper, we look like we have everything going. We have all the things achieved. People are going, oh my God, you're amazing, but you're quietly surviving. You have silenced your intuition. You're trying to win people's approval, but at the cost of losing yourself. And this disconnect doesn't just affect us in our careers, it affects our health, it affects our relationships, it actually affects how we show up. Because what happens with this disconnection, we stop understanding how to actually process joy. We kind of figure, I should be feeling this, but I'm not. And then feel like I'm alone. And so you don't talk about it. The problem is, it's not a you problem. And it's not an us problem. The problem is, our brain just isn't wired for joy. It can be, but its default setting is not wired for joy. Because most of the time, our brain has one function. It's keeping us alive, especially our limbic system. Its focus is to seek out trends. How do I neutralize it? This is what kept our ancestors alive. If something is moving, it probably wants to kill us. Now we're not in that kind of situation, but our brain hasn't outgrown that. And so what happens is we still feel like joy is a luxury. Joy is for somebody else. Joy is a state for that person who has had that then, not for me. And especially for Black and brown women, where joy is seen to be self-indulgent. And it's not. It's not a luxury. It's not just an emotion. It's a neurological state. And once you start to prioritize joy, you start to tell your brain a couple of things. First, you are safe. Because it's only when you're safe that you can actually feel joy. You tell your brain you are safe. But when you are in joy, it changes so much. It changes how we show up. It changes the beliefs we have. When we are in joy, it's the stuff of legend, because joy actually has a power to infect. The same way sadness can infect other people, and there's studies on this, that sadness is infectious, joy is infectious. Because with joy comes, and hope is an emotion that you cannot kill. It can be tarnished, it can be strutted on, but hope survives. How do I reclaim my joy for myself? How do I find that back? We're going to use this framework, and I call the 3 R's of self-return. And the first one is recognize. You have to, first of all, recognize what is the script playing. Because if you can't name it, if you can't see it, you can't claim it. You can't name it. And if you can't name it, you can't speak to it. And if you can't speak to it, it's just this heavy thing on the side of you that is just oppressive. It becomes the boogeyman, so to speak. It never goes away until you recognize what scripts you're in, what is acting pulling you apart, and why. You have to then recognize whose voice is reading, because Elle spoke about the inner critic. And the inner critic shows up, and it has a function, but it shows up and it's speaking. Sometimes you need to stop to recognize whose voice is it. I had to figure out whose voice was speaking to me. Because when we are able to recognize it, then we are able to ask it questions. We're able to say, would I take advice from that voice? Would I really take advice in real life from that voice? Or would I just let it run? Once we recognize, we're able to see what patterns are showing in, because we're able to pinpoint it. The other thing that we're able to do is rewire, because once you recognize it, you're able to pinpoint it, you're able to name it, you're able to grapple it. You're then able to say, I can rewire this. And it's now about, this is what we bring in science, tools like the Dreamscape assessment from the Neurochange Institute, where which I work with. And we start thinking about, how can I rewire those programs? Because they are programs. It could be a program that you picked up from your family. It could be a program you picked up from your community. It could be a program that you tripped and fell and landed on because you were in the wrong place at the wrong time, ended up with the wrong set of people. But once you start understanding what the stories are, you're able to unpick it and rewire. We're already worthy of that joy. And so when we are on that journey to reclaim our joy, it's about actually going back in. It's about tapping back into our inner child. It's about reconnecting to the version of you from 5 years, 10 years, even that 5-year-old version of you whose simple pleasure was playing with crayon, and starts taking simple steps. Your joy is sacred. I want everyone to understand your joy is sacred. And when I said this on the panel, I want you to actually think this. You are worthy of joy. You are worthy of that. And you are worthy of being that joy bringer to your circle.
I love that. Thank you so much, Lillian. It's so powerful. Wasn't the answer great? And so many things that you taught here, as well as your gift. I can't wait to unlock your gift. So everybody go unlock the gift, fill out those questions, and then connect with Lillian and then get your sessions in.
Yes.
Thank you so much, my wonderful friend, for giving us so much wisdom and so many powerful lessons and nuggets of gold. I love you.